Thank you for your response, Minister. While I don't doubt your own sincerity of your reply, I must point out to you that the amendments that you've put forward here by your department, 28 of them are exactly the same amendments. They're a cut and paste for bottom of the previous amendments recently in a PMV. 5 to 6 are unique in relation to the application because of the structure of the motion, 10 are unique into local authority element, and 10 are reworded from previous. And Minister, while I do say I have no doubt of your sincerity, your personal sincerity, I think the amendments that you've put forward are a disgrace. And they're rehashed and reused. And it shows, it's very obvious in this House today, when we see no other member of the front bench or the back bench of any of the groups sitting here today for this debate. I find it amazing. Not even one from the Lowry group are here. Unbelievable. Who claim to be independent. Ciaran, there's a moment in life of all nations when the status quo becomes not just unacceptable, but indefensible. And this is one of those moments. Housing is not merely economic issues. It is a question of justice, a question of dignity, and a question of intergenerational trust. Yet this government has allowed a generation of Irish people be pushed further and further from the possibility of home ownership. Not because we don't have the land, not because we don't have the labour, our labour is unavailable to us, but because of our systems, our planning system, our utilities and our procedures and procurement. They have become the relics of a past Ireland, and they do not meet the challenges of a modern Ireland of which it demands. In an urban Ireland, particularly in the city of Cork where I represent, and the urban areas of Mallow, I represent, this is a failure takes on a sharper sting. We see scaffoldings of hope being replaced by scaffoldings that will never rise. Families pay record rents, while new homes remain trapped in the webs of objections, deadlock and endless consultation. We see zoned lands lying idle, while housing lists in this country grow further and further. Children grow up in temporary accommodation, temporary that now has become permanent through official and government neglect. This motion does something that successive governments have been too timid to attempt. It demands structural change, not rhetorical sympathy. It names the problem for what it is. This is a national housing emergency, Minister, and the sooner this government recognises that, the better. It puts forward a framework grounded not in ideology, but in pragmatism. We call for emergency legislation, not to abandon the standards, but to match the urgency and efficiency. We propose a housing delivery acceleration task force reporting directly to the Taoiseach, because too often accountability in this country and in this government has been lost in the fog of overlapping jurisdiction. He said it, he's in charge of that, I don't know who took responsibility for it. The usual that we hear inside here and as we wring our hands. And I must be honest, we cannot build homes if we cannot coordinate the pipes, wires and roads. A shovel cannot break ground if we can't allow water or power cannot follow it. And this is unitly, what I would say is that we have to have a synchronised, subject, time-bound public scorecards, as my good colleague mentioned earlier in his speech. The public has a right to know what are the delays and where are the delays and who by. That's a minimum that we can give to them. I also call for the restoration of logical planning laws, the standardisation of housing templates that could pre-approve, saving months of duplications, the objections of those with no local connection, the serial objector, we're all sick to death of them, who weaponises the bureaucracy and must no longer derail the common good of delivering housing for this country. As a legislator in a constituency with 50 to 50% rural and urban, I know that housing is not just about supply, it's about access, opportunity and fairness. When my constituents see a vacant council house lie empty for 6, 9 or 12 months, it does not see the complexity of the issue, it sees government failure. We propose a quick turnaround standard for voids that fast-tracks funding that councils can meet the mark, and public scrutiny for those that don't. Let us be bold in this House. We cannot solve this problem with the same procurement rules and excluding the very builders who built the first homes in Ireland. Local providers, mid-sized contractors must be allowed back in the arena to compete. Likewise, we must fast-track our apprenticeship programmes, not by lowering the standards, but by modernising the delivery and matching the needs of this decade, not the previous decades. This motion is unapologetic, it is ambitious, but it's not arrogant ambitious, as you've admitted yourself, Minister. It is a recognition of half measures that have failed us in the scale of the housing crisis that demands a new contract between the government and the people of Ireland. In closing, I remind this House of an old truth. A society grows great when old men plant trees in the shades that they do not and will not ever sit in. The question before us in this House is simple. We must remember, and what do we want to be remembered for? A generation that accelerated a solution or prolonged the suffering of the Irish people. I commend this motion to the House.